Hello and welcome to this Unity tutorial series. Today, we're diving into the basics of Unity, a powerful tool for game development. Whether you're an aspiring game developer or just curious about game creation, this tutorial will set you up with the fundamentals to start your journey. So, let's get started. First things first, we need to install Unity. Head over to the Unity website. I'll include a link in the description. We're going to head over to the Unity website and download the Unity Hub. And once you finish installing it, you'll need to sign in with a Unity ID. If you don't have one already, you can create it during this process. Once the Unity Hub is installed, it'll look like this. The first thing we need to do is to install an editor version. Now, Unity does a great job of offering an archive of their older releases and providing new updates pretty frequently. One thing that you should note is that whatever installer version you use, or whatever editor version you use, when you start your project, you want to use it for the entire project. Making changes to the editor mid-project can cause some major issues. Something that I've tried to do in the past, and it has completely broken things. And luckily, I had a backup, so I didn't have to start from scratch. But it can make things very difficult. So you'll go here and go to the install editor, and then you'll have the most latest recommended version. We'll click install. And on here, there's a lot of different options. It'll ask you if you want to install Visual Studio Community 2022, and if you don't have it already, then you should probably install it. It's not necessarily required, but if you don't have it, it's a good tool to have on your computer. If you're planning to use Android with this editor version, you want to have Android build support, iOS build support, Mac build support, WebGL, and Windows build support. So basically on here, you're just going to be selecting any platform that you plan to be releasing your game for. Now, typically when you're starting out, you'll either be using WebGL, Windows, or Mac. Android and iOS, these other ones you probably won't use as often until you get further on and are doing some kind of like special circumstances. Anyways, we're going to click continue. And click I have read and agree. Click install. And then I'll go through the process of installing the editor. Now, the Unity Hub is going to be the home for your installs as well as your projects. It also has a great link over here to different community links like the Asset Store, which is an amazing place if you have the money to spend. Unity blog, some answers, forum, and Unity Pulse if you want to provide feedback. And then they also have the Learn feature here, which you can use to find Unity tutorials. They often come, like if you click on them and download them, they'll often come with like a pre-dedicated tutorial system all set up and ready to use. I'd also have a recommended group here and also show you what you've already downloaded. All right, well, that install finished. Let's go ahead and continue on. So next we're going to want to start our project. You can ignore this. There was an issue whenever I'm recording with the Unity servers. Happens occasionally. Oh, you know what? Now that I bring that up, we should actually probably go over some troubleshooting tips. So for the Unity Hub, you can have some issues occasionally where you need to sign out, sign back in. You do that over here. You sign out here and sign back in using that. If you're having further issues, then you can sign out, close out the program completely, open the program back up, and then sign back in. If you're on Windows, just know that the program does stay active in your system tray, so you'll need to close it out down there as well. Let's go ahead and start a new project. And I'm just going to name this tutorial. project, and we're going to do a 2D game. All right, and so this is what it's going to look like whenever our editor finally opens up the project. The Unity editor is where the magic happens. We're going to go over the different sections of the editor. We're going to start off over here in the hierarchy window. So this hierarchy window is going to show all the objects that are in your current scene. Think of a scene as like a scene. I guess that's the best way to say it. It's going to be the different areas of your game or project that you're working on that you'll be transitioning in and out of. Scenes are the easiest way to manage, what game objects are going to be there and what ones are not. Some games have many scenes. Some games have 2 or 3. So over here in the hierarchy, we've got, the name of the scene, and then we have our main camera. You can see here. And then in here, we can add objects and other parts of the game. Looking over here in the center window, this is kind of like your main visual workspace is the center window. You can have a lot of different things here. Usually what you'll have is going to be the scene, the animator, and then the game. So the scene is... Oh, did not mean to pop that out. So the scene is just kind of like a editing window where you can kind of see all the dirty details of the game. The game is going to be a visual representation of what your main camera is looking at that time. Whenever you do hit play on your game, it'll automatically pop you over to this game tab. On this game tab, you can change your aspect ratio. You can also change it to a simulator and simulate different devices such as a phone. You can also, zoom in and out. Then over here on the side, we have the inspector. The inspector is where you can see details of different assets. For instance, if I click on this folder, you can see it pops up some details over here. The project window is where we're going to be storing kind of like the project files of different assets that our project uses. When you start out, you're going to have 2 main folders, the assets and the packages. The packages are where the Unity packages install, and we also come with this default folder of scenes where you're going to have your sample scene there. One thing that you might want to do occasionally whenever you start a new game is you're going to want to import some packages from the Unity store. You can go to do this. We can click on Window, Package Manager, and it's going to pop up something like this, where you can see all the packages that are in your project, all the Unity registry packages, and then you click on My Assets. That'll show you all the assets that you own in the asset store. And you also see all the built-in packages as well. We also have the console here, which is where you'll go to debug issues that you're having in your game. It'll automatically transition from project to this console, usually when you have an error message that pops up. Each of these window panels can be edited. You can add windows to them. You can do different things like lock them, view their properties, things like that. You can add a tab to them. You can drag them around. You can rearrange them, kind of change their sizes. Basically, just do whatever you want to do that helps you. You can also save your loadout or your layouts and then load a layout. So if you have something that you like, you want to make sure it's always on the same project like that, you can go here, save your layout, and then load it. So the next thing that we want to do is a big part of working in Unity is going to be scripting, which I know sounds intimidating, especially if you're new, you haven't done any scripting at all. Do not worry. For my tutorials, we're going to take it very simple and very slowly, so that you can understand what's going on, what each line of code is doing. But as those tutorials progress, I'm going to stop mentioning those basic things, get more and more into complicated stuff. So I'm not going to be repeating what terms mean, but if you follow one of my series from start to end, you'll at least have some knowledge of what's going on. But when it comes to coding, you don't need to worry too much about knowing everything. I think that's what turns a lot of people off. If you're worried you're not going to know how to do what you want to do, you don't need to know how to do what you want to do, because you're going to learn it as you go. You're going to learn how to code the things that you want to do. Don't be intimidated about not knowing it, because learning it is where everyone starts. It's how you're going to learn to make these games, is just going out there and doing it. That is the best way. Tutorials can help, but doing things on your own is going to be very beneficial to you. That's why at the end of each of my tutorials, what I'll be doing is I'm going to give you a few steps to do as homework, so that way you get some practice making changes on your own. So, back to editing code. Minimize these windows, and I like to use Visual Studio Code to edit my code for Unity. Now, I've included this link in the video description. You can go here and download the version for you. Once it is downloaded, you'll want to install it, and it'll look something like this. Now, we're actually not going to be doing anything here, because we don't need to, really. Any code that we're going to be opening is going to come from Unity, typically, at least when you first start the code. Okay, so after we do that, we're going to want to go to Edit, Preferences, and then we're going to go to External Tools, and we're going to click on External Script Editor, and we're going to select Visual Studio Code. Now, it's not a requirement for you to use Visual Studio Code. You can use whatever code editor that you want to use. But if you're following my videos and my tutorials, you're going to want to use Visual Studio Code, so it kind of matches along with what you're seeing on my screen. If you feel competent enough to use a different one, then please feel free to do so. But if you're using Visual Studio Code, it's going to match more of what you're going to see me work on. Okay. And then down here, we're going to make our first script real quick. To do that, we're going to first right-click Assets. We're going to create folder. We're just going to name this Scripts. It's very important to keep your assets well organized. Very, very important. We're going to come over here and we're going to create a C# script. Name this test script. Okay. And then when you make a script or make changes to a script, it's going to reload and recompile. We'll double click it and it will automatically open up Visual Studio Code. You can see all the details of that script here. So there's going to be a lot of color coding here. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, this top area... Oh, that's another reason why I like using Visual Studio Code, is that if you mouse over things, it'll sometimes give you names or give you like descriptions of what you're looking at. So up here, we're using these different namespaces. Namespaces are going to have codes that they're going to inherit that are already coded in, so you can reference them with ease. Okay, and then right here we have public class test script. So first thing that we have here is public. That means it's visible for everyone to see. It's not hiding anything. Next is class. That's the type of script that this is, or type of method this is. And it's named test script. Now you have to have unique names for your methods and for your scripts. Otherwise, you're gonna have some conflicts and some wonky behavior, and it'll even give you some errors. And then finally, we have a colon here, which tells us that this script is going to inherit some certain behaviors, and this is inheriting from mono behavior. I'm not going to go into the details of what that means. If you're interested, I recommend looking it up. And then Unity has these helpful little comments for this first script that we made. The start is called before the first frame update, and the update is called once per frame. So the very first frame start as run on this code. And then every single frame after that, it is shown here. That's why you'll see, a lot of different codes where they talk about, click on that, where they talk about making sure you're measuring things by time and not by frames. Because if you're doing it by frames, then it can be different based upon whatever system is running on. Because what one system can do, 30 frames, another system can do 60 frames, things like that. So we're not going to make any changes. You can look over here and you can see the script here. We can click it and you actually see the details of the script over here, as well as a few other information where everything is good here. But I'm going to come over here. Just going to go like that. And then I'm going to save the script. And go over here and look, I've got an error message. Now we're going to talk a little bit about debugging. So for debugging, we're going to be looking in the console usually. Now, if you have an error, it's going to pop up down here on the bottom. You can actually click this, it'll show up. And then if you're looking down here, it's going to tell you the folder and the name of the script that's storing the error. It's also going to tell you the line in the code that that error is occurring at. And it's going to tell you what it expected, or what happened. So here it's just telling us that it was expecting a semicolon at the end, which when you're coding C#, you want to have a semicolon at the end of most of your lines. There's only a few exceptions to that, such as, closing a bracket. So, yeah, it tells us it's going to be on line 10, and we go over here, look at line 10, you can see exactly where it's at. So I fix that. I'm going to save. Go back over here, it's going to recompile. Then our error message disappears. So now we're going to talk about game objects. So game objects are the heart and soul of a Unity game. Game objects can be found over here, and what you want to think about game objects is, this is another channel called Game Developers Toolkit, and he has a quick Unity tutorial on there that I highly recommend. And the way he describes it is that game objects are containers. And that's all it is. A game object is a container. And inside this container can be several different components. So we're going to go over here and we'll create empty. And we're just going to name this mouse follower. Okay. And then you can see that it comes with one component already on there, which is the transform. You can click this little button right here. By the way, this is the component right here, this little box. You can click this. You can see some properties for this component. You click that, it's going to pop open in a separate window. And you can see some other details, like where exactly it's at. We're going to switch everything to 0 right there. Tell you its position, its rotation, and its scale. That's the transform. Now, almost every single component is going to have either a transform or a rect transform. I'll show you what that looks like. See, that's what a rect transform looks like. Okay. So, next thing we want to do is we're actually going to make a quick little testing for you to understand. As a quick hands-on, we're going to make a simple 2D project where a circle follows your mouse movement. This will give you a taste of scripting and game object manipulation. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to right-click inside of our scripts folder. We're going to right-click, create C# script. We're going to name this script follow mouse. We're going to open it. It'll pop up in here. Okay. And we don't need our start, so we're going to delete all that. Okay. And then in our update, Remember, this is something that is called every single frame. We're just going to do very simple vector 3. If you don't know what a vector is, it's a point in space. And the number after the vector tells you how many points you're looking at. So we're looking at 3 different values, so x, y, and z. Even in 2D, you're going to use vector 3s pretty often. Vector 3, and we're going to name this vector 3 mouse position. So that's going to be the name of this vector 3. And then we're going to call a function get mouse world position. Okay, and then after that, we are going to get the transform component of the object that this script is attached to. And we're going to we're going to call on its position, which is a variable that's already defined in the Unity object. And then we're going to set that position to mouse position. Now, we typed in this function earlier, and you see here's a little red squiggle underneath it, because it doesn't exist. It's not an actual function yet. So instead, we're going to go down here. We're going to create a new function. So this function is going to be a vector 3. And it's going to be named get mouse world position. So you change the color of it because now it's an actual function. All right, and then down here, we're going to put in the code to call and find our mouse. Okay, so first we're going to do vector 3 again. We're going to name this mouse point. That's the name of this vector 3. And we're going to check for the input mouse position. So input is an already defined term in the Unity engine. And then mouse point dot z. So we're editing the z value of this vector 3 equals camera dot main dot near clip lane. So this is just making sure that our z is correct in relation to our main camera. And then return camera dot main dot screen to world point mouse point. So we're calling a function that already exists in the namespaces that we're calling on. We're checking a class of camera. We're getting the main camera, and then we're checking it. We're using a function screen to world point, and we're checking the mouse point. Okay, and so what this is going to do is it's going to return the mouse position of our camera, or the position of our mouse relevant to the camera. It's going to turn it into a vector 3, which is going to be used up here. And we're going to transform the position of this object to the mouse position. Okay? We're going to save this file. We're going to go back here. It's going to compile, and it's going to check for any errors that we have. Okay. Next thing we need to do is we're going to create a folder. I'm just going to name this sprites. Create 2D sprites. We're going to make a circle. Okay, simple enough. You can even go in here and you can edit the circle if you want to, change the colors, things like that. You can see a lot of details comes with sprites. We're not going to go into all these here. Usually in my, one thing I'm going to talk about, usually in my project, a unit is equal to 256 pixels. It's just very easy to work with. I find it to be pretty common and easy to do. Let's go back over to our mouse follower. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add a sprite renderer. This is going to tell our object what sprite should represent it. Now we can fill this out in two ways. We can click this, browse our project for what we want, or we can drag and drop. Next, we're going to add a component. Oh, and before we do that, see, we've added that on there. We have our main camera already set up. We can go over here. We see there's a little circle here. Okay. So I'm going to go back to our game object here. I'm going to add component. I'm going to type in follow mouse. You can see our script. Another thing is that Unity looks for capital letters, and it'll add spaces between words if you capitalize them. Follow mouse, add that component. We're going to click play here. Okay, and look over here and you see that this circle is following my mouse around the screen. Pretty simple. Easy to do. So there you go. Pretty simple little tutorial for us. Now, what I want you to do, just to practice a little bit more, is I want you to make 3 more objects. Game objects over here. And I want you to have them all have a different sprite. And I want them to all follow the mouse. Okay? I want you to try that and just kind of mess around with that, figure out what it's going to look like and what you can do. You can have them with whatever sprite you want, but they each need to have a different sprite and they each need to follow the mouse. And that's going to be it. I will link, or you should see a card splash up at the end of this video with my next tutorial series. And if not, then it's because I haven't gotten to it yet, and you're super early. So congratulations on that. And that's about it. Have a wonderful day.